Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving right back into the Lovevery comparable play kits. When I first made these videos, I didn't expect them to become a whole series, so I'm really happy to see that you guys have an interest in these. With that in mind, I would love to know roughly what age your little ones are, because so far I've been making these videos as Stella gets older. I'm waiting until kind of the end of that play kit age range to really know what we're working on and how that compares with what the play kit has. So I would love to know if that's been working for you, or if you have little ones that are older than Stella and you would like to see these expedited. So definitely let me know in the comments below. It would really help me know when and how often you'd like to see these videos come out. Today we're looking at the Babbler Play Kit. This is for ages 13 to 15 months. And you're noticing now we're moving into one play kit for every 3 months, so the price does increase to $120 for the play kit. So quickly looking through the items that we have in the play kit. The first item is this slide and seek ball run, and it's working on a few concepts here. The first one is having to push on that ball on the top, so essentially an equivalent to a pounding toy. Then you do get to track the ball as it goes around in that spiral. And then there's almost a variation of an object permanence box on each of the 4 sides, because the child has different ways to get the ball out. Next to these bunnies in a felt burrow, which are extremely adorable. They work on the concept of containment, having to put the bunnies into the burrow. They also work on crossing the midline, as the child has to move their hand to the center and across to get the bunnies inside the burrow. And it also is something that the child might like to carry around, because at this age they like to transport items from point A to point B. Next is their flexible wooden stacker, and the big premise behind this one is that the actual rod in the center is flexible, so it's more difficult for the child to get the rings onto the dowel. Next is the Circle of Friends puzzle. It's working on size differentiation as the child works on getting the puzzle pieces in, and it's a circle because that is always the easiest shape to maneuver in properly. So right now we're not focusing on getting the correct shapes in, we're focusing on just size differentiation. And next is a 3-in-1, so they have this box that has 3 different lids. One is a wood coin drop. Next are these carrots that you have to post inside and then push down for them to fall in. And then they have an essentially DIY version where the holes are much smaller, so they recommend something like Q-tips to use here. And the final item they're offering is this Bedtime for Zoe book, so a book about bedtime routines and getting ready for bed. And of course, as always, they do have their play guide. So taking a quick look overall at the play kit, I have to say it's very heavily focused on the concept of containment. And this is something that our children are still working on, but this started when our children were first exploring object permanence back in the 5 to 6 month play kit. There are many other concepts in the world that our children are really interested in and are very focused and excited to explore that I'm not really seeing in this play kit. Something that I've always thought that Lovevery was really strong with is naming their kids appropriately for the things that our kids are really into at that age range, and then including activities that really lean into that. So for the Babbler Play Kit, you would expect a lot more items that really help our children with language development, because at this age range, our kids are really absorbing language like a sponge. I'm not really seeing anything that is specifically targeting language. I'm not seeing anything that could be used in a treasure basket, in a language basket, anything like little animal figurines, or any kind of matching opportunity games. So I think there is really a big gap here. Additionally, at this age, our kids are really into things like pouring, into things like cleaning, really practical life activities. And while Lovevery does offer those further on down the line, there's again another missed opportunity here to offer at least some kind of practical life activity for our kids. So as always, I'm going to offer you alternatives for this play kit that are going to work similar skills and likely will work more than the play kit is offering. I'm going to have a total per item here, as well as a running total on the other side. Everything will be linked down below, and prices are current as I'm filming the video right now, but without a doubt there's going to be changes. There always are as soon as I sit down to get the screenshots for everything. Click on the links to see the most current prices. Starting with the slide and seek ball run. This is one of the items that I see Lovevery definitely created on their own, because there's nothing quite like this on the market. And while it's extremely interesting and would be very exciting for a child to work with, there's also a little bit of a problem here, meaning that the child needs to have mastered the skill of pounding and pressing on something with a lot of force in order to get the benefits of the rest of the material. So if your child does not have the hand and arm strength yet to get the ball to drop, they're not going to be able to watch the ball go in that spiral, and they're not going to work those skills to get the ball out, which is why a lot of Montessori materials, you will notice, focus really on one skill at a time. So we had a ball tracker that I introduced several videos ago, and I'll go ahead and link it down below as well. And all the child had to do with that is put the ball on top, and they could get that benefit of tracking the ball and all of the benefits of that material. So the 3 things we really need to accomplish with a comparable item would be a pounding activity, something that allows the child to track the ball movement, and also something that allows the child to retrieve an item from a more difficult variation of an object permanence box, something that has handles, something that maybe even has latches. The first item I'm going to recommend is this ball pounding tower for $15.95. The child is able to work on their pounding skills. They can either use the palm of their hand, or they can use the hammer that comes with the toy. They can also work on color matching, which again the play kit doesn't touch on at all. The balls have different colors and the columns of the tower have different columns, so they can work on matching the ball colors to the columns of that tower. Once the ball does go in, they can see the ball track as it moves around. It's not the perfect spiral that the Lovevery Play Kit has, but it is still a very interesting way for the ball to move. So if you don't already have the ball tracker, or you do want something that still has that ball movement as the child works on a pounding activity, I definitely recommend this one. Now in terms of all those doors that they have to retrieve the ball, I actually think that that is too easy for our kids at this age. And again, it will depend on every child, but considering we're moving all the way through the 15th month, and our kids have had a lot of opportunities at this point to open and close things all around the house, I think they're ready for the next step, which is working with different kind of latches. There's an infamous Melissa and Doug latches puzzle. Another wonderful variation that I saw is this barn with latches and also animals. And the Melissa and Doug barn is $36.99. So with this item, we can use it for several different opportunities without any of them impeding the child from benefiting from the rest. So like the Lovevery ball tracker, if your child is not able to pound the ball, they're not able to benefit from opening and closing the doors and finding something inside. With this one, you're able to still undo the latches for them if they're having a hard time figuring that out, and they can still open and close the doors and find the animals inside. They can also work on putting the animals inside and taking them out. So still working on object permanence and also crossing the midline, just like those bunnies in the burrow. Moreover, because this does come with some of the animals, now you have a chance for language opportunities. Not only can you work on getting the animals in and out of the barn, you can work on what those animals are, what sounds they make. A very easy DIY you could do is take a picture of those exact animals and print them out and have your child work on matching the cards to the animals. There's a lot more that we're working on that the child is actually ready for and excited to learn in this age range. But I do encourage you to let your child try one or two of the latches in this age range, because you'd be surprised how excited they are to try this out. So looking at the bunnies in a burrow, honestly, if I was recreating this play kit, I wouldn't bother with that, simply because we already have that crossing the midline, containment, animals, everything is in that barn activity. Moreover, it's very easy to replicate with something like a simple zipper pouch and putting some items inside the zipper pouch. The child can work on putting them in, taking them out, and work on opening and closing the zipper. So the flexible wooden stacker. Again, the big premise here is that because the dowel is flexible, it moves as the child tries to put the rings on top, and thus makes it more difficult. Now with the traditional ring stacker, typically the base is curved on the bottom, making it move as the child tries to put the rings on top. So we're still accomplishing the exact same thing. Moreover, with the traditional ring stacker, the rings do vary in size. So eventually, not only is the child working on getting the rings on the dowel, they also have to work again on size differentiation. So just getting a classic ring stacker is definitely going to be the best option here. And I found one just for under $10. Now the Circle of Friends puzzle is actually inspired by a real Montessori material, which is the 3-circle puzzle. You'll notice we do have 3 circles for the Montessori material, not the 5, because it can get a bit too complicated with the 5 circles for a child at this age. So I do recommend actually getting the real Montessori material, which is the 3 circles. I found one on Amazon for $14.99. You can also get it from Allison's Montessori for just over $12. However, there's shipping to be considered there. For the sake of this video, we'll go ahead with the Amazon $14.99 because I'm assuming you're not purchasing a lot of materials at once on Allison's. And now we get into that 3-in-1 wood coin drop, carrot drop, and the DIY Q-tip drop box. I think this may be the one item in all of the play kits that I really recommend you just DIY. It's incredibly easy to DIY this material. I'd say you'd be hard pressed to find a Montessori family who hasn't DIY'd a variation of this. I have a video of how I DIY'd it. It took no more than 10 minutes, and that included setting up the camera and getting everything filmed for you as well. So I'll link that video here. For the carrot version, you could certainly use popsicle sticks, or you could use straws. And for the Q-tip version, obviously you just make smaller holes and you put Q-tips in. So it really is quite simple, and you can have more varieties as long as you keep changing the lid. So there's a lot that you can do for pretty much the cost of nothing. However, if you really would prefer to have some kind of actual materials that you purchase as opposed to a DIY version, I'm going to give you 2 routes that you could go here. One is to get one of those Babbler boxes that have different lids on top as well, and the child can essentially work on shape sorting, which again is missing from this kit entirely. And they do offer the option of a coin as well as a cylinder, so similar to those carrots, but then you also work on things like a triangle, a square, so you're working on more and more options. And then it has a pull-out drawer, so then the child is also working on that skill again. This option is $29.99. You could also purchase the coin drop box on its own, which is $22.99, and then supplement it either with just the carrot activity, which is here for $14.39, or a combination of this carrot activity and this little worm posting activity, which is a combined set for $28.90. So in that way, you are working on that disc rotation, because it is very difficult for the child to get the coin rotated just right to drop into the coin drop box, so it is a very worthwhile activity. Again, just one that you can easily DIY. And then this carrot and worm activity does work on thicker and then thinner ways to post. With the carrot activity, it actually goes beyond what the Lovevery one has, which again is size differentiation. The carrots are different sizes, so the child also has to work on getting the right sizes into the right holes. So for the sake of the total, we'll go ahead and include the coin drop box and this combination of the carrot and the worm posting activities. And the final item is this Goodnight Zoe book, so a book about bed night routines. And one of the things Lovevery is known for is always using real pictures and real photographs in their books, so they're always extremely realistic, which is very aligned with Montessori. I'm not able to find actual photograph books of bedtime routines for your child, so you could also DIY that. However, in our home, and again in a lot of Montessori-inspired homes, you will find that we do allow for at least cartoon images of kids, because there are a lot of wonderful, wonderful books out there that aren't necessarily using images of children, but they are using realistic images. So some of the books that I found that are in line with that is this Goodnight I Love You book for $7.99, a book of sleep for $6.99, which looks at how all the different animals fall asleep. But again, because we're talking about how animals sleep, and it is looking at the realistic ways that animals sleep, is still a Montessori aligned book for $6.99, or this If Animals Kiss Goodnight book for $4.44. So depending on what your child is into, I've noticed Stella right now is not really into seeing something about routines. We got some toilet learning books that kind of show the step-by-step process of how children usually learn to use the potty. She's completely not into the storyline right now. She's more interested in looking at animals and just different animals on pages. So I know for her this Goodnight I Love You book would not be of interest, and she would be much more interested in If Animals Kiss Goodnight and the Book of Sleep. So we're purchasing all the items that we talked about. We're looking at $137.80, at least at the time that I'm filming this video. So that's $17.80 over what the play kit is costing you. But again, remember, we're working on a lot more size differentiation here. We're working with latches, we're working with actual animal figurines that you can use for language activities. So we have a lot more going on with this play kit, and a lot more aligned with actually working on language and being a babbler. Realistically, I think you take out that coin drop box and the worm activity and you create that on your own. The carrot posting activity I think is actually worthwhile because again of the thickness and size differentiation, which is different from the circle size differentiation. Essentially you're working with 3D versus 2D. But even with getting that carrot posting activity, which again is not completely necessary but just really a nice addition to have, we're just over $100 at $100.30. With this play kit, those $100 that you're going to be investing into the items that we mentioned, you're actually going to have them last you a lot longer and work on a lot more skills with your child than you would in purchasing the Lovevery Play Kit for $120. So you're saving at least $20, and if you don't include that carrot posting activity, you're saving close to $35. And you can either just keep that money, or you can go ahead and invest that into some kind of shape sorter, some kind of pull toy, some kind of practical life activity, some kind of pouring activity. So there's a lot of things that are still missing from this play kit that you could take that extra money and invest into and have a much more well-rounded kit. Be on the lookout for my next videos, which will include some other activities that we're working on in this age range. And as always, I hope you stay safe.